It has been a very challenging year, but one that has given us a lot of time to reflect on how arts institutions can better serve its artists and its community. During these negotiations, our committee was committed to making a better Met, to making a better opera company for all of its current and future employees.
It was important to center anti-racism and DEI initiatives in order to make our company more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive for all BIPOC artists.
This is an industry-wide problem. We took on the responsibility and emotional labor to use our collective power as union members to address it because diversity is a shared responsibility. We must always be vigilant to create equitable spaces, to employ checks on biases, foster inclusivity, to ensure the protections of BIPOC artists and all artists, to take representation from a mere exercise to a real cultural shift.
It was important that our full 36-person negotiating committee supported and stood with the efforts of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We created a space during these negotiations to deal with these issues and made it clear to the Met that we would not form any agreement without them.
I've worked as a full-time artist in this company for many years. I'm excited for these positive steps forward.
We are pleased to announce our success in agreeing to industry-leading DEI contractual language and protections. We are excited to share them with you today.
It is vital that auditions are conducted in a manner that supports and uplifts underrepresented artists in all positions and roles.
Audition postings must be designed and circulated in a more accessible manner that assists the recruitment of these artists. Now, auditions will be posted in forums where they can be seen by a diverse set of artists, and for a minimum of 3 weeks unless it is not practical to do so.
The company must meet with AGMA to provide an annual report on hires.
To enable a casting process free from bias, casting will not be based on body type or costume availability and fit, except where there is a significant cost factor or a role-based artistic decision.
The company will hold open process auditions whenever there are openings for full-time positions, and annual house auditions for the dance department. These auditions open up access to the Met to people who might have been excluded, not considered, or typecast in the past.
AGMA artists will meet with the company to develop audition screening criteria in order to ensure a diverse applicant pool.
The company will endeavor to have BIPOC individuals provide meaningful input into casting decisions.
For our non-performing groups, the company will commit to interviewing at least one candidate from underrepresented groups before any hiring decision is made.
To combat the tendency of BIPOC artists being pigeonholed in race-specific roles, the solo singers engaged in race-based casting will be actively considered for non-race specifically cast roles during the subsequent 4 seasons.
In order to identify a solution, we must gain a better understanding of the problem. To this end, the company will undertake an annual anonymous demographic survey, which will inquire about ability, age, ethnicity and national origin, gender identity, racial identity, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status.
Artists will not be required to disclose any information, and the Met will not release results of the survey that could identify an individual artist without the consent of AGMA and the artists. This data will help the Met and AGMA identify structural racism within the organization, and then take steps to eliminate it.
The Met will contract a qualified outside organization to develop and conduct Met-tailored anti-racist, racial justice, cultural competence, and other appropriate training for all staff and third-party contractors who work with or who have contact with artists.
The training will be sufficient in length and involve active participation in order to address these issues.
If an AGMA artist wishes to report a violation of the Met's anti-discrimination policies, that artist will have a safe and trusted way to report anonymously and the right of union representation throughout the process.
The Met will ensure cultural competence and skill with diverse hair textures and makeup for diverse cast members. To do so, They will retain qualified consultants as appropriate and will train its wig and hair and makeup staff and will strive to diversify the staff in the hair and makeup department.
To hold the Met accountable on all of these proposals, as well as to continue to strive for a better, more equitable Met, the Met will establish an AGMA Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee made up of AGMA members and Met staff involved in the Met's core functions.
The committee will serve as a place to continue these important conversations and as a place to analyze the efficacy of the initiatives we have talked about here. The committee will also make recommendations on further anti-racist initiatives and advanced promotional and programming planning.
The committee will also address issues including onboarding processes for new employees, outreach, marketing, and development of anonymous and voluntary demographic surveys for all of its employees.
It will review and track outreach and recruiting mechanisms, and audition and casting processes, and efforts to have BIPOC individuals provide meaningful input on casting decisions.
It will work to advance diversity of staff in all departments and develop and evaluate training focused on anti-discrimination, anti-racism, implicit bias, unconscious bias, preventing gender violence and sexual harassment, cultural competency, and creating a safe working environment.
Importantly, the DEIC will also identify ways for the Met to use its power and influence in the opera industry to promote racial justice and to eliminate discrimination within the opera industry at large.
Although this is just a small start, the changes we make here will reverberate throughout our entire industry. We must take these gains and move forward.
The overlapping work between the AGMA Black Caucus and the Black Opera Alliance and the work of this committee allows us to build on these contract provisions nationwide.
We must continue to push and work to make this a more equitable company.
The wonderful work this committee has done here will start the process of making a better Met for all of its artists.
With the strength and support of all AGMA members, we can continue to make this a company we are proud to work for.
In solidarity,